What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HnH Podcast. I am your co-host, Humzah Rana, joined by my older brother, Huzaifah Humzah Rana. We are officially 2 days away from the 2026 NFL Draft. Unbelievable that we're this close away from the draft. Huzaifah, it's been a pretty hectic week, been a really fun sports week. What are the vibes saying right now? What are we feeling?
Yeah, man, it's NFL Draft Week. It's obviously a super exciting week for all NFL fans around the world. An opportunity for teams to get better and an opportunity to see who the next stars are going to be in this league. And I'm excited. This is a big draft for our Dallas Cowboys, a big draft for many teams around the league. And you and I have been doing our research but heading into this final mock draft 4.0. And it's a lot different than the first couple ones that we did, Humzah. So I'm excited to see what we're going to do here today in our mock draft. I know we talked a little bit before, but I still don't know all of your picks, and you don't know all of mine. So for our viewers watching on YouTube, I ask that you guys continue to smash that like button and click the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us at the HnH Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. And, of course, for our audio listeners, please tune in to us on Spotify. And soon we'll be making a transition as well to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from. For those of you who remember our last mock draft, we kind of did like a live stream kind of thing where Humzah shared his screen onto a PFF, and then we kind of went one by one. I think people liked that. It was a lot more interactive. So we're going to be getting that ready to go here today as well. Humzah, before we get into this mock draft, you've done a lot of research heading into this. What are your thoughts overall, and how are you feeling about the first kind of round? And also I'll ask you this question: at what pick do you think the draft starts? I know many people say it starts at 3 or 4, considering Fernando Mendoza is a lock, and then you have David Bailey or Arvell Reese at 2 or 3. But at what pick do you think the draft truly does start?
I'd definitely say right after number 1. I say the Jets. I think the Jets say they can go. They've been heavily linked recently to David Bailey a lot, but with Todd, actually no, I take it back. I say number 3. I think the first 2 picks are pretty much locked. I think Fernando Mendoza and David Bailey are the first 2 picks, but then starting at 3, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who have a lot of interest in trading back. But I don't think in our draft we're going to do any trades because, again, we can't really project trades.
Yeah.
We can somewhat accurately maybe project picks, but trades are a little bit difficult. But there's a lot of buzz that the Cardinals are looking to trade back, and I think the Chiefs are a team that could be interested in trading up and maybe taking a guy like Arvell Reese at 3. I think that's really where it starts. I think we're going to see a lot more trades in this draft than most recent years. I think with the Browns are heavily linked to trading back. With all these other teams, the Dolphins as well. Looking to find trade partners to get more assets, and this draft, it's a stacked draft, but it's really good from the end of day 1 up until day 3.
Yeah.
The beginning of or the end of day 2, pretty much. It's an exciting week. It's an exciting draft. Again, we're never going to be accurate, and no draft analyst is going to be accurate with their drafts. So it's just a fun thing to do, and at least we'll have a somewhat good idea of what to expect, starting on Thursday. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned we're not going to do any trades in this mock draft here because it is difficult to kind of predict, and you don't know. There's so many different moving parts, but we'll get into more detail about that when we talk about our Cowboys pick at 12. But Humzah, let's not waste any more time. I know our viewers are eager to see what we have here for the draft, and for our viewers on YouTube, you can see Humzah has shared his screen, and for our audio listeners, we will do our best to kind of walk you through these picks. So Humzah, I'll let you kick it off here, man, with the very important first overall pick. Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock, and let's fly through this. Humzah, who are the Raiders?
I think we could honestly just fly through the first 2 picks. I think it's unquestionably Mendoza, and then your pick. I think you obviously want to go Bailey here too.
You have it hovered over the right guy. I think David Bailey has shown that he is truly the great, the best edge rusher in this draft class with his versatility. So, easy. Fernando Mendoza at 1, New York Jets. at 2, taking David Bailey. And
Yeah.
Humzah, you're at 3.
So this is where I think the draft starts. As of recently, the Cardinals have, again, like I mentioned before, have been linked to trade away, but they also been heavily linked to a surprise pick for a lot of people who don't really pay attention to the draft as much. Jeremiah Love. I've seen videos. I've read articles that apparently the Titans are most likely also going to be out on Jeremiah Love, and I think from what I've seen, the Cardinals are interested in taking him, despite them already signing Tyler Algier. I think there's a real chance that Love is a pick here for Arizona, especially if they don't especially don't get a trade partner. I think Love is the pick here. It's kind of different. Recently, we've always had either David Bailey or Arvell Reese being the pick here for the Cardinals, and this time I'm gonna go Jeremiah Love, best running back in the draft, one of the best running backs prospects we've seen in quite some time. Maybe Genty, but I think Jeremiah Love has it all as a running back. With a new head coach and is it Mike LaFleur or Matt LaFleur? Mike LaFleur.
Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, Mike LaFleur. He's a big offensive guy. They want to help out this offense. So I think Jeremiah Love's a pick here.
Interesting pick, Humzah, and that leaves me here at 4th overall, picking the best player available for many people at this time, and projected to go number 3, sometimes even number 2. I have the Tennessee Titans picking Arvell Reese, edge rusher, linebacker hybrid out of Ohio State. You're talking about a guy who's very similar in many senses than Micah Parsons, I believe, in multiple different ways with his athletic ability, his ability to play sideline to sideline. I think there's definitely some more improvement needed at times playing at the edge rusher position, but that's going to come over reps and reps. And, that defensive minded head coach and Robert Saleh in Tennessee, as well as White Cotton, the former Dallas defensive lineman the defensive lineman coach who went over to Tennessee. So that's my pick there at number 4. And we'll go back to you 5. And now the Giants have 2 picks here in the top 10 after that trade last week where they traded Dexter Lawrence for the 10th overall pick. So, Humzah, what do you have the Giants doing here with their first of 2 picks in the top 10?
We'll briefly go into the 10th pick later once we get there to explain kind of what my thought process is and what other NFL analysts' process on this. But I think the Giants, after especially using Bobby Okereke, they need a green dot linebacker. There's been rumors of Dallas potentially trading up to the Browns to get Sonny Styles, but I don't think Sonny Styles is even going to make it to pick number 6. So I have the New York Giants selecting Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State, back-to-back Ohio State players off the board. So there you go.
Yeah, that's we saw the Mel Kiper trade recently with the Dallas Cowboys who trade up to 6 with the Cleveland Browns to get that pick. You're talking about a dynamic linebacker in Sonny Styles, like you mentioned, the green dot player. Who will be a force in the NFC East for a very long time. And from a Cowboys fan perspective, we don't like that. But flying over to the 6th overall pick in the Cleveland Browns, one of their biggest needs, as you can see in the top right of that screen, is tackle. And they're going to pick the best one in the entire draft in Francis Mauigoa. Probably pronounced his name wrong again for the 4th mock draft in a row. But, man, we went into detail about this guy. A versatile tackle who's physical at the line of scrimmage, not afraid to get hands-on and move guys around. So that's my pick there, number 6. And Humzah, the Washington Commanders at 7. Where do you have them picking here?
So I was thinking, multiple directions here. I was thinking Caleb Downs at 7, but again, they don't really value safeties that high in the NFL draft. I'm not sure why. We've seen it before with Kyle Hamilton falling all the way to pick 14. Derwin James, a couple of 2019 draft, fell all the way to pick 17. Brian Branch, who was I thought was a top 10 consensus pick, fell all the way to 2nd round. So they don't really value safety as much. But in this scenario, I'm just thinking, how can we help Jaden Daniels get back on track? Why not get Deebo Samuel? I don't want to say he was a failure in Washington, but they need some help in that wide receiver room. So why not go Ohio State guy, Cardinal Tate, who in my opinion is the best receiver in this draft. I just think of a guy, the way he's built and the way he's able to move as a 6'4", 6'5", deep threat. It just helps spaces out that entire offense. And being alongside Terry McLaurin, I think it's going to help the Commanders for quite a while. And it sucks that again another great Ohio State player is entering the NFC East.
Yeah, you literally just you said exactly what I was gonna say. You got two great players in our division, and gonna cause a problem for a very very long time. So I like that pick, Hamza, from a Washington perspective. For the New Orleans Saints at number 8, we had them kind of picking different players last couple mock drafts, but for me, I think they're gonna stick in that same route at receiver, and they're gonna go Jordan Tyson. A guy out of Arizona who is a dynamic receiver. We watched his highlight tape a couple weeks ago. Together, we were just in awe of his athletic ability to get the ball down the field, his ability to create space out of the slot as well. You're talking about a guy to play with Tyler Shuck for a very long time, and also Chris Olave, who we both know has had a history of injuries. He may be slowly making his way out of that wide receiver one role, and why not get a guy like Jordan Tyson to replace him there? So, yeah. I think that's my pick there. Number 9.
Yeah, I don't know if people have seen the private workout video of Jordan Tyson, but bro, this guy he can fly.
Yeah.
This guy was in the air for so long on that one ball. Honestly, amazing with the athleticism that he has. It's honestly incredible. Now with the Chiefs, we mentioned before that the Chiefs are interested in trading up with the Cardinals. And if they were to do it, I honestly have them taking Arvell Reese because I think they need an edge rusher. And we've heard a lot of talk about Ruben Bain recently potentially sliding because of the arms, some of the off-field issues, not really with him, but he was in an accident a couple years ago but teams do know about it. And I don't think that's really going to, diminish that. I just think teams are more so worried about the arm length. But to me, I think with his production, how he's able to play, I think Ruben Bain, alongside a guy like Chris Jones would just be dominant for years. And it's going to instantly boost up this Chiefs defense and kind of get them back at being that contender defensive team. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs here.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about Ruben Bain here for a second as you talk about just that player, his ability. And, an edge rusher out of Miami, you look at Akeem Mesidor, you look at a bunch of guys on that defensive team. Scary player and a guy that I think the Kansas City Chiefs will benefit from for a very, very long time, and someone that's going to cause a lot of damage for a very long time. So at number 10 overall, the New York Giants, who this was the Bengals pick for a very, very long time, and they made a trade for Dexter Lawrence and they got this pick at number 10. And I hate to say it, but they got to pick the best player available, and they already drafted Sonny Styles at number 5, and I think this would be a home run for the New York Giants organization. I have them picking Caleb Downs at 10 overall, and that pains me to say that they'll be taking Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs. And as we mentioned in the prelim of our episode, we're not projecting any trades. I can definitely see Dallas being a team trading to the 6th spot with Cleveland and maybe taking Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs off the board. But for ease, I guess, for this episode, we're not going to do any mock trades. And now you have Caleb Downs going to the Giants. So just quickly before we get to your Miami pick, what are your thoughts on that and him being available at 10 and the Giants getting 2 players from Ohio State and helping their defense a lot?
Yeah, it sucks. So the Giants and the Commanders all went Ohio State players, which sucks. And Ohio State's been the most dominant team in college football. I know Indiana had the best team last year, but in terms of just players, it's definitely Ohio State. There's good and bad. As a Cowboys fan, there's good and bad sides with the Giants trading up to get the 10th pick. One, you lose Dexter Lawrence, who's not in the division anymore, who's a dominant defensive tackle. But they have the luxury of getting a 10th overall pick who can just instantly get a star. And I think there's a really high chance of Caleb Downs being the pick there at 10. But I'll briefly get to the reasoning on why this also could be a blessing for Dallas later once we get to pick 12. But for the Giants' sake, this is a home run. You get Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs to completely revamping this defense. And honestly, probably, it might be crazy. They might have a top 5 defense with what they already have now. It's unbelievable. The Styles and Downs, I'd hate it so much playing them twice a year. But now I have the Miami Dolphins. You can see that their biggest need is wide receiver, guard, and DB. I think, from what I've heard from watching videos and reading articles, getting a guy like Malik Willis and the money that they spent to bring him here, they need to protect him. A lot of people might not agree with this pick, but I've seen a lot of highly rated scouts and analysts make this pick, and for Dolphins fans, you do also have the luxury of having a second pick in the first round, so you can address the wide receiver need later. I think why not get probably the best guard in this draft? I don't think it's really close. Huzaifah Iwani, I can never pronounce this guy's name. Huzaifah Ion, his name. Penn State guard. Okay, Penn State guard.
Huzaifah Ione.
Huzaifah Ione, guard out of Penn State. Again, he's not the flashiest pick, but this is a guy who instantly could come in and help be the protector for the Miami Dolphins. You need to protect the guy. You need to protect Malik Willis, and Miami's have had issues for years with their offensive line, and especially at guard. He reminds me a lot of a guy like Tyler Booker. They're not really the most agile, but they're super big. They're strong, and they're great in the run game. They're great in the pass game too. Physical, just like specimens of an offensive lineman. Again, it might not be the flashiest pick, but in terms of value, and if you want to protect your quarterback, Huzaifah Iwani is the pick here for Miami.
And now here we are at pick number 12, and the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. Our Dallas Cowboys, America's team, are on the clock. And if the board happens to fall exactly the way it is, I'm of course very upset that Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are both on the Giants. But I am extremely happy that the number one defensive back in this draft is still available, and that's Mansour Delane, defensive back out of LSU. And that's a big need for the Dallas Cowboys. You talk about Deron Bland, who he's having foot surgery again on the same foot he injured a year and a half ago. Talking about Shavon Revel, who yes, he had a good end of the year last year, but he's been playing under a knee brace because of an ACL injury that he suffered his last year in university. There's some question marks there. You obviously traded for guys like Kobe Durant, and he's a phenomenal ad, but you need a guy who can truly lock down one half of the field. And I think you do that by drafting the number one defensive player at the position in the draft in Mansour Delane. Get him to play right away. And another thing I want to mention is that I would not be mad if the Cowboys did not trade up. If the Cowboys kept their pick at 12 and 20, people forget that this Cowboys defense, we need help in a few different spots here. And if you're trading up to 6, for example, you are getting a 1A player. But I don't think your value later in the draft is going to be worth enough to make that trade. And now if you pick at 12, you get a true 1A defensive player in Mansour Delane, and you also have number 20 in your bag where you can go out there and maybe draft a linebacker, go out there and do something special on that side of the ball. This is a great situation for the Dallas Cowboys, and if Mansour Delane's a Dallas Cowboy Thursday night, I'm extremely happy. So that's my pick at 12. And Humzah will fly into the next pick for you.
Yeah, you have the next pick, but briefly, I just want to talk about Mansour Delane. I think with the Giants trading up for pick 10, this helps Dallas get a guy like Mansour Delane, because I honestly believe if Dexter Lawrence is still on the Giants, the Bengals have the pick at 10, Mansour Delane is off the board at pick 10. They really do need a corner, but they trade away from that pick, obviously, and that leaves room for guys like Mansour Delane to fall. Yes, you can see him going to the Dolphins, but there's so many bigger needs on the offensive side of Miami where they need to pick an impactful player for the offense now. They didn't really do much in the offseason to kind of help it out, so that's why we went with Huzaifah Iwani, whatever, and then Mansour Delane to Dallas. This again, it helps out. And before people talk about, man, there's no way Mansour Delane falls to 12. This is the NFL draft. People fall all the time. Literally last year, Jalen Walker, projected top 8 pick from multiple high-level NFL analysts. Not a single one had him going outside the top 8. This guy fell to pick 15. Shedeur Sanders, he was projected to go in the first round. This guy fell away to pick 5. Years before, Jalen Carter, projected top 5 pick. There's no way he's going to fall, right? Guy falls all the way to pick 10. It's the NFL draft. Even Quinyon Mitchell a couple years ago, projected to go in the top 15, he falls all the way to 20-something to Philadelphia Eagles. Again, this is the draft, right? We can think that, a person fits here, that's best, but again, NFL teams have their own way of drafting, and stuff like this happens all the time. And I don't think it's even crazy to say that Mansour Delane falling to 12 is unrealistic. I think it's very realistic. So that's just how I think about it. Stuff like this happens all the time, so before people get upset, be like, oh, you just picked Mansour Delane because you're a Cowboys fan. No, it just makes sense. It just makes
Yeah,
sense.
and to kind of piggyback off that point, we've also seen it, Hamza, where teams sometimes reach on players, right? Like Michael Penix was not supposed to go in the early first round last year, especially after they win and go and got Kirk Cousins, who at that moment was supposed to be their guy. So there's been examples of people reaching for players, and Colston Loveland, the number one tight end last year was supposed to be Tyler Warren, but Colston Loveland went before him. So NFL drafts are unique, they're exciting, they bring drama and excitement to the viewers at home and people watching live. So honestly, I think it's a great mock draft so far, and I'm going to keep going here with the 13th overall pick, and the Rams. I think one of the biggest needs, although they have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, I do think they need to get younger at that position just a little bit more and help build around a guy who can play the slot, a little bit of a smaller player, and that's going to be Mekhi Lemon for me, Hamza, wide receiver at USC. We had him going to the Baltimore Ravens in our earlier mock drafts, but his stock has really risen recently, and I think that'd be a great pick for Matthew Stafford, who could be only playing for another couple years, and why not build around a young defense receiver, in Mekhi Lemon.
And to pick up your point, we don't know how much longer Devontae Adams is going to play for, too. Even though he played at elite level, but a lot of its production kind of came from within the red zone.
Exactly,
so
yes.
I think you get a guy, Mekhi Lemon, and just space it out everything, and then probably have the best wide receiver core in the NFL if they get Mekhi Lemon. I picked 14 with the Baltimore Ravens. If this is a scenario, you're kind of, I don't want this to say screwed, but you would probably ideally want to trade back. Mekhi Lemon just got taken. I would have, probably think that would be the pick. You could go a guy like Umar Cooper here, but I think that might be just a little bit early for the Ravens, especially if they already have a guy like Zay Flowers who kind of plays pretty similar to Umar Cooper. You could go guard, but again, Ovega Owane, he's off the board. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a curveball, and I think I'll explain why after I make the pick. I'm going to go Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. They lost Isaiah Likely in the offseason, and Mark Andrews' inconsistency kind of shows up a lot in big games. I think you get a guy like Kenyon Sadiq who will just space out the floor and be a more reliable target for Lamar Jackson. I think with years to come, he will be the tight end one. And again, we've seen this before where teams already have a tight end. You mentioned a guy earlier, Colston Loveland. The Bears already had Cole Kmet. Now I don't think really tight end was the biggest need. They went ahead and took Colston Loveland because he's one of the best players available. Brock Bowers, they already drafted Michael Mayer the year before. They were excited about him, but they took a guy like Brock Bowers to instantly help. I think you get a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, who's an athletic freak. I can't say enough about Kenyon Sadiq. You plug him in with the Baltimore Ravens, and I think you help this offense really get to that level where it needs to be.
And just to add to Kenyon Sadiq, comes a good point is that he's a phenomenal blocker as well. And with that run-first mindset in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, whoever's in that backfield, getting a guy like Kenyon Sadiq who can get out to the secondary and to the linebackers and make downfield blocks is going to make their team better. And I'm in the mindset that you draft best player available and figure out the need later, because at the end of the day, these are NFL future players and they're going to be great players for a very long time. Flying over to pick 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hamza, I have them drafting Ottawa boy, edge rusher Hakeem Mesidor. This individual guy, former teammate of mine when we were younger, has truly surprised me, and I think a lot of people, in how quickly his draft stock has risen since the combine, as well as obviously his tape in the college football playoff, where he alongside Ruben Bain were a dynamic duo on that Miami defensive front. And yeah, he's 25 years old. He has a bit of a foot problem. I think he had surgery maybe a year and a half ago. But he's still, a great player, a guy that can complement another pass rusher. So maybe that's something that the Buccaneers maybe address in free agency. But the best player available and one of their biggest needs is an edge rusher. So Hakeem Mesidor to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 15 overall.
Yeah, so now we have the Jets here. Shout out Hakeem Mesidor, Ottawa native. You can see they could go quarterback. I think this is a little bit too early for a guy like Ty Simpson unless they want to trade back, or maybe he falls to the second round. Because the Giants have the first pick, the Jets have the first pick in the second round. I'm just gonna go with, you want to help Garrett Wilson, you want to help space out this offense with whoever your quarterback is. Right now it's Geno Smith. I really do like Umar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. I think him being a slot guy, being really good after the catch, will just help space out this Jets team. They're pretty good on the O-line, so I don't think you really have to worry about it. Maybe they might need a guard after losing their guard to New England. I forget his Elijah Vera Tucker. They could adjust guard later on. They could go corner, but again, with Jamon McCoy, injury history, teams are a little bit kind of backing out on it. I just like Umar Cooper here. I think in terms of fit, he fits perfectly with what the Jets need. Plus, they already went with David Bailey earlier, so and you're getting kind of two perfect picks for the Jets here in the first round.
You can jump around here to the Detroit Lions at 17 overall, and one of their biggest needs is tackle. You see two great players in Spencer Fano and Monroe Freeling. I truly believe you can't go wrong with any of these two players. I do think they will go tackle. This is kind of a toss-up for me. I think this player has risen up a lot of draft boards recently. I think his ability to play in that team down in Georgia has shown that he can play against high-level competition. And I'm going to go with Monroe Freeling here, tackle out of Georgia for the Detroit Lions. He can play opposite a guy like Penei Sewell, and Jared Goff would be protected for a very long time if Monroe Freeling is there. So that's my pick, and we'll fly over to Humzah for the 18th overall pick.
I think this guy's been available for too long, and we talked about him before. I had him in our mock draft, the Cowboys one, but I don't think he makes it any farther than this. I like Dylan Thiedemann, safety out of Oregon. We've already talked about this guy a lot. He's an athletic freak, someone that's very versatile. I think would just help, especially losing Harrison Smith. I think Dylan Thiedemann will just fit right in that mold.
And jumping over to Carolina, Humzah, this is another interesting pick here. There's a lot of different options you can go with. This was actually one of the picks we did not talk about previously. I know the other ones we kind of had an idea of what we were thinking just based off our research. But this guy, I'm going to go with the guy who I kind of wanted Dallas to stay away from just because of his injury history. But if you look at this guy playing maybe opposite a guy like J.C. Horn, I think it's going to do wonders for this team for a very, very long time. If Jamar McCoy can be a healthy player, if he can stay healthy, hopefully he does. But I'm going to go Jamar McCoy to the Carolina Panthers, the 19th overall, and that leaves Humzah with the 20th overall pick.
So
our Dallas Cowboys run the clock.
Honestly, if I'm Dallas, might call me crazy. I really do like Spencer Fano here. I think we need a right tackle badly. Terrence Steele sucks. He's been a liability for his offense. He's allowed so much pressures and a lot of big-time plays where we need Dak to make that throw. He gets popped because of Terrence Steele. I honestly would love Spencer Fano here, but just for the sake of the draft, I'm not going to take him. As much as I actually do really want to take him, I'm not going to. Dallas still has a bunch of other holes on defense, and I'm kind of looking at linebacker. I know PFF has C.J. Allen rank 18, but he's kind of dropped a lot recently. I honestly would rather have a guy like Jacob Rodriguez. We've already addressed corner, so that's good. And I'm kind of also looking at edge rusher. We have Kildrick Folk available, who I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't think he's really the greatest. I think there's lack of production that's missing. Yes, he fits in the 4-3 with a 5-man defense, but I think we kind of need someone to make an impact. I've talked about Cassius Howell a lot. Love the way this guy plays, his motor and the way he's able to get the quarterback. But I'm going to go with someone that Dallas actually did like, and they brought him in for a 30 visit. And I think you just make this secondary even better with a guy like Christian Parker at your DC. Someone that we haven't talked about before. I like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo. Talk about a guy who's 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", great speed. He's a hard hitter, plays great in the zone, good at tackling as well. I think alongside Jalen Thompson, who can also kind of play that somewhat nickel role as well. But if you want to have it too high, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and Jalen Thompson, and then now you secured up Mansour Delane. You have Deron Bland and Savon Ravel. I think you just completely changed this Cowboys secondary, which was horrible last year, ranked 32nd. I just think you just completely revamped this Dallas secondary with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I'm a big fan of him.
That's a very, very good pick, and an interesting one as well, because I think you can argue linebackers important there, but I love what you said about the depth that linebacker has in this draft. Jacob Rodriguez will still hopefully be available. C.J. Allen, his draft stock has dropped a little bit. I would not be mine. I think if the Cowboys get Emmanuel McNeil-Warren and Mansour Delane in the first round, I think we're very happy people, but I think a player to keep an eye on from a Cowboys perspective is Jacob Rodriguez. He has risen a lot of draft boards recently. It may be a reach for him at 20. I do kind of agree with that, but I still think he's a dog of a player. He's a dynamic linebacker. But overall, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, I know we had him one of the Eagles earlier in our previous mock drafts. I would love this pick for Dallas. At pick 21, Humzah, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's fly through these next couple picks here, Humzah. I'm going to go picking an offensive player, and I'm going to pick a position that Mike McCarthy has historically been known for developing at a very high level. That is quarterback. You are correct, Humzah. And I'm going to go with Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama. Excuse me for that little stutter. But I'm a big Ty Simpson fan. I think he's a good quarterback. I know Dan Orlovsky said he rates him higher than Fernando Mendoza. I don't agree with that, but I do agree with the fact that he has played big-time games here down the stretch. He played at Alabama. He understands the importance of winning in that culture. And this is a quarterback I think that you can build around for a very long time. He's a good system quarterback. He's a smart individual. And as I mentioned in my opening, Mike McCarthy does a great job in developing these kind of quarterbacks. And so if Pittsburgh can go out there and get a guy like Ty Simpson at 21, I think it does wonders for them. And maybe you go get a veteran quarterback in free agency to kind of build around as well. But that's my quarterback there, number 21, Ty Simpson.
I find it. Yeah, that's a good pick for Tyson. I find it crazy that Spencer Fano is still available. I just think the way our board fell, I can't really find a team. I don't think the Chargers don't need a tackle with Joel Alt and Rashawn Slater. I think he is the best player available. I'm going to skip over him again. I'm going to go with another very big positional need for this team and someone who I think is very good. I think is better than where he's ranked here. I do like Peter Woods a lot, defensive tackle out of Clemson. I think he just fits the mold of what John Harbaugh, John or Jim? John?
John.
Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, what he's looking for in that Chargers defense. They lost some pieces. I think, you get a big, solid defensive tackle to, help, stop the run. I think that was an issue for the Chargers this season.
And at 23 overall, the Philadelphia Eagles, I think the writing is on the wall. We saw Adam Schefter make a tweet a couple days ago that A.J. Brown might be out of town in Philadelphia, maybe to the New England Patriots. And so I think they're going to have to address that need. And I think you're going to go out there and draft a dynamic wide receiver at Texas A&M, Casey Conception. Just a dynamic player for Jalen Hurts. You look at what they have already with Devontae Smith, and let's just say A.J. Brown is out of the picture. You definitely do need a receiver to fill that void, so that's my pick there.
Yeah, that's a good pick. With the Browns available now, I don't know who's their opposite. They just drafted a right tackle, and it's not going to go far now. I'm looking at receiver. I don't value this guy a lot, but I know some teams might like him. I think with what the Browns need, I think he could be a good pick here. I don't think he's the greatest, but with what the Browns need, I'm going to go with Denzel Boston, wide receiver out of Washington. He's a great jump ball receiver, but he can't really create much separation off the break. But he could just be a good jump ball guy, especially if you want to, Shedeur Sanders to be the guy. I think, he can help alongside, Jerry Jeudy, and then maybe they get another, fast slot receiver later on in the draft. I think Denzel Boston might be the pick here.
Let's fly through these last couple of picks here, Hamza. At the 25th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears selecting Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. A lot of people have been hating on his ability to get home. I do think he is a work in process. I think he can be a great player down the road, but this is a good developmental piece, and it addresses a need on the Chicago side of the ball, on defense side of the ball. So Keldrick Falk I have going here to the Chicago Bears. 26. Buffalo Bills are on the clock.
Buffalo Bills, I'm going to go with, I think they do need an edge rusher. I think someone that teams value a lot. I don't really see much of him, but again, who am I to say teams like him? I'm going to go with Zion Young, the edge rusher out of Missouri. Great run stopper. Can improve as a pass rusher, but I just think what the Bills need, he fits that perfectly.
I'm not going to waste any time here. If this guard is still available at this point and it's a need for the San Francisco 49ers, and it's interesting how our board kind of fell. It'll be interesting in the comment section to see where people had him going earlier. But I have Spencer Fano going to the San Francisco 49ers. Addresses a major need in the interior's offensive line position for San Francisco. And like I mentioned before, very similar to the Baltimore Ravens, a run-style offense. It's always important to build from the inside and go out, and you have Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, and a bunch of dynamic players on the offensive side of the ball that can benefit from this pick.
For sure. I'm going to go with the defensive side here. I don't really like what I'm seeing at guard here. I think someone that can just help, kind of instantly as well. I think they are missing another good interior defensive tackle. I like Keenan McDonald here, defensive tackle out of Ohio State to Houston. I think he helps good in the run game. He's a good pass rusher as well. I think it's a good pick for the Houston Texans here.
Yeah, and here at 29 overall, the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, and Earlier, they picked Ruben Bain, edge rusher out of Miami in this mock draft. I think they lost a lot of defensive players, especially in the secondary. Kansas City did this offseason, a lot of them to the Rams. I think they got to go and get a guy who I think is one of the best players on the board, in Avian Terrell, a guy who can play the nickel, a little bit of a smaller guy, but a guy who can move around. There's some good arguments around the board with Colton Hood and other guys like Chris Johnson as well. But I think Avian Terrell is a player for the Kansas City Chiefs at 28 overall.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami Dolphins. We previously went Vega. Oh, my God. Previously went Vega Wane here. Even though PFF, I'm not sure why he has him ranked so low. I do think he could definitely sneak up in the first round. Again, this is the NFL draft. Things like this happen all the time, and I've seen him go in the first round before. I just think of what the Dolphins need in terms of a wide receiver. I like Zachariah Branch. I know he's ranked 75 on PFF, but on other stuff he's ranked much higher. I like Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver out of Georgia. I just think what the Dolphins need, you need a reliable slot receiver for Malik Willis. I think Zachariah Branch could be that guy. Dolphins have been known to get a really fast wide receivers. You get a guy who has a 4.35 speed, and the way he plays in the slot, and it's a way to create separation. I think this is a great pick here for Miami.
And closing out here, the first round of the second last pick, the New England Patriots are on the clock, and there's a lot of different places they can go here. Edge rusher, linebacker. I'm going to go with, I think, C.J. Allen, who's a linebacker out of Georgia. He has dropped in a lot of boards recently. You also can argue R. Mason Thomas, which I think is a great pick as well. I think it's a toss-up, if you ask me. But I'm going to go C.J. Allen, just my gut player. I think he's a good green dot, a smart player. And I don't know if you heard this, but in his last year, he was actually calling plays on the defense for Georgia. And I think that goes a long way for a guy like Mike Vrabel. So that's my pick there. And Humzah, with the last pick, where are the Seattle Seahawks going?
Well, the Seahawks, even though he's not, we can't see him on the screen right now, but I think, honestly, these are really good talent available. I think, maybe Caden Brock can go in the first round. Again, just the way the board falls, things like this happen all the time, and this could be something that could happen in real life too. Again, we don't know, but again, it's just the way how our board falls. I am actually going to go with corner here. We had him going last time. I think he actually will go a little earlier. I think, in my opinion, he's better than Avian Terrell. I do like Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee, for the pick here for Seattle. I know there's been talks about Jadarian Price, but I think that's a little too early for him. In this production, I do like Colton Hood here for the Seattle Seahawks, and that concludes our final mock draft 4.0. This is I think I do like our draft a lot. I think we are missing a couple tackles, but I don't. Again, we've heard about it before. I don't think the teams really like how good the tackles are in this draft, but I think we did a pretty good job.
No, I agree, Humzah. If you can close that, bring us back here to full screen. I think overall that was a great draft. Again, we are not experts by any means. Anything can happen on draft day. This is what Humzah and I believe are the routes that these teams are going to go with. I think best player available is a route that a lot of the teams are going to take rather than need. But it truly depends where you are. So I like our mock draft, Humzah. I think it's going to be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see if there are any trades, because I know the Giants picking Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs is a bit of a mess from the NFC East perspective. But before I give it to Humzah to close it out on our mock drafts, I ask that you guys please continue your love and your support for our podcasting journey. Smash the like button on Instagram and YouTube. YouTube, and subscribe as well on Spotify and YouTube as well. On my side, I just want to thank you guys for your support. Really appreciate it. And Humzah, I will let you close it out here on our final mock draft.
Again, we appreciate all the support. It was fun. I love doing these type of mock draft videos. Again, like Huzaifah said, please leave a like on this post. Please, comment whatever you want. Comment anything draft related. We may be doing like it's a nice helmet. We may be doing ask a couple questions on Instagram on Thursday for the draft possibly. But again, we appreciate the support. This is fun. It's kind of crazy. This is our last mock draft. Final one, and then we have the draft on Thursday night. Super excited for it. We appreciate all the support, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you, guys.